Alright, so this project is something that I call the Windstream. Why is it called Windstream? Because it's a bicycle that has Windstream on the side, and I couldn't think of what to nickname it. Anyway, today we are going to be range testing the project, and I would tell you all about what this bike is and how it was put together, but there's going to be a nice fast forward section of me riding the bike where I can tell you all about it. So let's get to the start of this. What we're going to do first is we are going to fill that little fuel tank up completely with fuel. And this is a two-stroke engine, so we will be using two-stroke fuel for the interests of health of the engine. And we're going to reset the trip odometer, and we're going to go off. Something that you will note right away is that the bike is going to be very hard to start for the first few minutes or so. This is because past Chris thought he would be a brilliant little engineer and pack the muffler of this bike full of cardboard. Originally this bike doesn't have a muffler because of the pipe that I have chosen for it, which I'll talk about later. But basically I had to build a muffler, and that is just a tube with some cardboard in it. So I thought it'd be really nice to have a very quiet bike, and I jammed it full of cardboard. Well, lo and behold, engines need to breathe, and I wasn't really letting it do that. So eventually we get it going, but for the bulk of the trip, the bike will be running pretty rough. I think it was about halfway through this trip, I actually did unpack the muffler and just bite the bullet with the sound, because it just was not running right. Anyway, you can enjoy the pure roar of 80 cc's of two-stroke fury. Sounds like a angry family reunion of mosquitoes. Now that it's warmed up just enough, let's open her up, see what she'll do. Enjoy that nice sound, high RPM two-stroke. Don't you just love it? The sound of power. Okay, yeah, that's enough of that. Let's mute this. Okay, we're going to give the quick elevator pitch of what this bike is. I don't know what brand the bicycle frame is, but it's a frame that I found in somebody's recycling. It says Windstream on the side of it. That's why I call the bike the Windstream. And the frame is all that's left of that bike. I stripped it completely down because the original mechanicals were very crusty. And so I grabbed mechanicals off of another frame. That frame wasn't good, so I just grabbed the wheels, the derailleur, all that stuff, and swapped it onto this bike. And then I added an engine to it. So the engine is a kit. It's called the Zeta 80 Performance Kit. It's one of those kind of cheaper bicycle motorization kits. However, the difference with mine is it's the performance variant, which of course adds money always. The word performance is an expensive word. What exactly does it add? It adds reed valves and an adapter for a 21 or 22 millimeter flat slide carburetor to the intake side of the engine. It's a really nice, actually, machined adapter that they attach to the engine case. I also added, this was a separate purchase, a expansion chamber exhaust pipe. That just helps the engine run better. I'm not by any means an expert on two-stroke, so I couldn't really tell you the engineering behind it, but I noticed that it runs better with this expansion chamber exhaust, and it is in fact made specifically for this engine. The expansion chamber exhaust does not come with a muffler. It's really horrendously loud. So that's what I was talking about at the beginning of the video with my cardboard tube that I added. Other than that, I have modified the gearing some. I got the high-speed gearing, if you will. There's typically 3 gears that you can buy. There's a medium range, which is what they include. There's a much larger sprocket you can put on the back wheel, which I don't know why you would put that on there. You'd have a lot of torque, but your top speed would be awful. I put the small sprocket on the back wheel. That brings my top speed into the high 30s, and that is when the engine is turning 15,000 or so RPM. I can tell you that because I added a tachometer, small engine tachometer. The bike is super sketchy at those speeds, so I didn't gear it just to be able to ride that speed. I geared it more so that whenever I'm riding it normally 20-ish miles an hour, the RPM is just not screaming in my face. Aside from that, I added that nice bicycle speedometer. Super handy, just keep track of my speed so that I don't get run over by a car, you know. I also did add a custom fabricated luggage rack. The luggage rack is not for luggage, it's actually for my fuel tank. These engine kits do come with a metal fuel tank, but that fuel tank is usually made out of Chinesium, and if you look at that fuel tank incorrectly, it will just disintegrate in your sight. So that's what happened to me. So I had to just adapt just like a plastic snowblower fuel tank. It's actually kind of nice, rectangular tank. It's nice having it on the back of the bike so that there's not just fuel in my lap. But anyway, yeah, so I just fabricated a luggage rack and hose clamped the tank to that. That's pretty much all the details about the bike. They're super wonderful kits. They're fun to cruise around town. The way I describe it is it's basically a mini bike that you won't really get in trouble for, because like if somebody complains, well, hey, you turn off the engine and you can pedal it. They're also not as loud, they're not as noisy as just a traditional mini bike, and you can take it on a bike trail. As long as you're careful, you can pedal it if you have to. They're just a nice, fun vehicle to get around town. So that is the cliff notes of what the bike is. Right, so this is the really fun part where the camera battery died, and I was not able to finish the trip. It's okay though, because it actually took me 2 days to empty the fuel tank. This thing's got a heck of a range. So let's get into analyzing the data that we collected and see what kind of miles per gallon we're going to hit. So right here in front of us, we can see some math to figure out how much or how big the fuel tank is. So it's 6 inches by 4 1/4 by 3 3/4 inches. That brings us 95-ish cubic inches of volume in the tank. So then what we'll do next is we're going to convert cubic inches into gallons. I just went to an online converter and found this, so it's about 0.4 of a gallon. I was actually really close in my estimation. I was assuming like 1/3 of a gallon. So yeah, then with that number, we can just divide the range we traveled by the amount of fuel that we used. So the range that I traveled was 47.5 miles. That was the instant that the engine died. So we're just going to call it 47.5 absolute limit miles. And again, divide that by our fuel tank size, which it was full when we departed. We get almost 115 miles per gallon. Just an absolutely insane amount of fuel consumption that this bike is getting. And that, again, is the performance version. So I would really like to try taking a stock one of these bikes and see how much fuel it would burn over a long trip. But anyway, so yeah, almost 115, 114 3/4, we'll call it. I'm an engineer, I can round up like that. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. And I've got some more plans for this bike in the future. So it'll definitely be making a return to the channel.